So this is not a feature that requires the latest operating system. It's been available for probably since about El Capitan onwards. I can't remember exactly when it came in, but it wasn't there back in Snowley, but it's sort of somewhere between, somewhere in that repeating pattern of new operating systems it's been introduced. So, and I'm aware that it is available in other applications as well, but off the top of my head I couldn't tell you which ones they were. I think the markup features have started to appear in other things as Apple has seen fit, like in Mail. I think you can mark up things in some way as well. So if I find, not that one, it's too busy. That will do. If I just save a copy of that, so I'm not going to be fiddling with the original, that'll do. Right, so in Preview, any document you open in Preview, which might be a PDF or it might be any kind of image, if you've got a JPEG or a PNG or something like that, you can open it in Preview. You can turn on the annotation features. The easiest way to do that is this little pencil marker button in the toolbar. But it's also available via Tools, Annotate, and in here you can do various things directly, but I just tend to click that button, which brings up this extra row of controls. So is that sufficiently visible up there that you can read it? So it has, if you point to them, it explains what they are. So I don't need to go through each of them in detail, but basically you've got text selection, rectangular selection, or sketch options there, then a separator. So the text selection just lets me come in here and choose a chunk of text. So I can come then copy that and paste it somewhere else, for example. So you can copy bits of text as long as the PDF is actually text-based and not just an image of some kind. Rectangular selection lets me grab an arbitrary rectangle as an image, so I could then copy that and do something with it. Else, like I could paste it into a different application or whatever it might be. The sketch one lets me arbitrarily draw stuff. That didn't work. I need to make sure I'm actually doing something sensible. What does that do? It's not doing anything at the moment. I'm not entirely sure what that's trying to achieve. It's not doing anything unless I probably have to fiddle with some of the settings over here. I can specify colours. Well, that's given me an oval, which I wasn't expecting. No, I want sketch. It's not doing anything sensible, so I'm not entirely sure what that's supposed to be doing. That's saying freeform line, but it's actually drawing circles, so it doesn't quite do what I expect. I don't tend to use that feature very much. What I do tend to use is this one, which is for drawing shapes. So what you can do there is you can draw lines, line with an arrow on the end, a square or rectangle, rounded rectangle, a circle, a speech bubble, a star, and I think that's a regular. I'm not sure if you can adjust the number of sides. Yes, you can. You can just rotate that ring in the middle so you can get regular polygons out of it. The one I tend to use most often is the ring. So I just create a ring, and initially it's solid, but if you click on these things you can choose the colour of the middle and you can make it hollow. Is that the one or is it that one? Yeah, it's that one. So that's the outer line, so I can make it red, outer line, and this one then controls the centre, so I can make it like black or transparent, which is quite handy. So then I've got a ring, and I can adjust the line thickness with this one, so I can make it have a thinner line, and now I have a adjustable ring that I can now position as I see fit on top of this PDF. So once I've done that, that is still an editable object while I'm working in Preview. So I can actually come back in here later on and tweak that further and move it around and whatever else I want to do. So I can add additional ones, I can add a square somewhere. Oh, there we are. Now I'm getting lines being drawn for no reason whatsoever. If you want to move it, you've actually got to click on the boundary and the visible part, which is usually the boundary, and drag it around. So I can do those. You can create arbitrary text by clicking on this little T in a rectangle, and that one I can also move if I can aim right. There we go. I can put that somewhere. I can change the colour of the text over here, so I can make that, I'll choose blue for no particular reason. Like that's the border again. That's a bit of fiddling to just get you the right idea eventually. So that's the border I wanted there. That's the body. It's the body colour I want to do. No, that's the background. That's the text colour there. So you can change the font, the colour, and everything else. So I want purple text, I want it to be bolded, I want it to be impact, and even bigger text font. So, and I can, all the usual font controls. I can control whether it's centered and all those sorts of things, and I can just double click here and start typing. And currently the box is a bit small, but I can just pick up the edge of the box and drag it to whatever shape I want, and then if I want to rearrange it, I just aim for the edges which I can't see anymore and just move it to where I want to put it. So can you rotate it? I don't know. Make it vertical? That will rotate the whole thing. Maybe not. No, possibly not. So I don't know if it can't do fancy rotations things, but at least gives you the ability to add bits of text on. So if you want to make some notes on a PDF or something like that, you can just put a box on the blank part of the page and just add some text to it or something like that. And when you resave the PDF, if I save this now, where's that going to put it? I think it's in my downloads folder. Come here. Come on, show me the thing. Yes, it's in downloads. Okay, so if I save that, yep, in downloads, and then I go close it and I go open recent, all those annotations are still there and they're still editable. So Preview retains all of that as an editable layer on top of the actual document. So effectively you can have persistent annotations that you've added, and if you send the PDF to somebody else, those annotations should be visible to somebody else as well. So that's possibly a useful feature if you want to. Sorry? It will be editable by them, unless you go to extra steps to them not to make it editable. Now, I haven't gone as far as working out that level of detail. I'll leave that as an exercise for the reader. I know, for example, if you print the whole thing to a PDF again, it will probably then bury it inside the PDF as a permanent part of it. So, but the sort of thing I tend to use this for is if I want to demonstrate something. For example, I want to show somebody how to use part of a Finder window. I will use the standard macOS screenshot features, and I'll use the capture select portion. I want to show this area of a Finder window, for example, and point to one of these items. So I wanted to show this is in the corner of the window, so I'll make sure the window is visible. I've selected that area. I don't want to actually save a file, I want to have an image on the clipboard, so I hold down the control key when I click it. I press return. That's now saved an image on the clipboard, and if I come into preview, you can go File, New from Clipboard, and that loads the image that I've just done a screenshot of as a new document in preview as an image. And now I can come in here and turn on the annotation features, make sure I've got hollow center, red outside, draw a arrow pointing to, in this case, airdrop as something I want to demonstrate, for example. So I just work out where I'm going to point it. I might need some extra space around the edges or something like that to make enough room. So, and then I can add some text to it saying, I don't want that font anymore, so let's just change that back to Helvetica and make it red, and drop it back to 48 points so it's more normal looking and not bold. And I could just say click here. Now notice the image size is a limitation there. I have to be a bit careful when I make the image the right size, but I can just move that down here, for example, it will still fit. So I can send somebody that, not particularly legible, but if I make the text have a white background, no, not the box, wrong one again, background, then that stands out better. So I can actually send that as an explanation for where to go to find the airdrop thing and find it, just as a completely random example. So once I've done all that, I can then do a copy. I can do a select all, copy, and go into mail, find mail, go new mail message, and come in here and go paste. And if I open that up, you'll see that's the image I'm going to send somebody. So that will actually show the image in the email message. Unfortunately, it doesn't show you while you're editing the email, so it's a bit tricky to see it in this context. But oh, there's markup. I knew it was there somewhere. If you've just pasted an image into an email message, you can also get the same markup tools by clicking on this little chevron that appears in the corner and click on markup, which gives you a window in Mail with exactly the same markup tools. So the same tools as I had in preview with box drawing and everything else like that. So I can do that inside Mail by using the markup feature, which is available via that little, if I show you that again, I've just pasted an arbitrary image in here. I click on the triangle there, I choose markup, and the image appears with the markup tools available, so I can then come in and edit it afterwards. Now in this case, it's just an image. It doesn't know that those objects were drawn separately, so at this point, Mail is not treating the click here and the arrow as an editable thing. They're just pixels in the image, so I can add more. I can add more stuff, so I can add a different colour one or whatever else it might be. So just pointing out that there are other places that the same things appear. So Apple's used the same tools in lots of places, but they're the main two places I've encountered them. Going back to this one again, if I just get rid of those for now, and just use this as an example again, the other things you can do, delete that. Here, I'll go back to this example again. If I want to do something like add a signature, there is also a signatures feature in here. And you'll see I have previously created several signatures. So I can come in here and click a signature that I've previously drawn and resize that. So I can just sign this document effectively by drawing a digital signature on it.
Is that one that you scanned or you actually forwarded?
Tools, annotate, signature, manage signatures. So in preview there is a manage signature section, and in there you can click create signature, and in there you can use your trackpad to draw your signature with your finger, or you can write on a piece of paper and a good copy of your signature and hold it up to the camera and it takes a photo of it, which is what I've done with other people with iMacs and things like that. And you can see there I did it's actually now drawing on my trackpad, pressing the keyword finish. I didn't want that one, so you can see I've done it several times and got different qualities. That's actually Andrew McPherson's signature, which I wanted a copy of so I could add it to a letter that was being sent out on his behalf. So,
Can you scan the signature?
Yeah, that's what you can use the camera. So you draw the signature on a piece of paper, and preferably a reasonably thick piece of white paper, otherwise it might show through. And when you do the create signature thing, you can select camera and hold it up to the camera, and you just need to position. It's got an on-screen representation of it, and it's a bit fiddly. I found it's actually much more reliable if you can do it on a trackpad, but if you haven't got a trackpad then that's not an option. So holding up to the camera, it required many attempts, I found, to get it looking just right, because it was quite fiddly in terms of it. And it's a good idea if you use a quite dark pen. So something like a Sharpie marker, for example, might do a better job than a somewhat faded blue pen, for example. A black pen is probably going to do better than a blue pen as well.
That's only using the camera
on the computer, yep. So the iMacs or MacBook's built-in camera
What
is
about
sufficient.
scanning it on a scanner?
That doesn't have a way of importing it from the scanned image directly. It can only import it directly itself from the trackpad or from the camera. There are other programs that can do the same thing. I have not found an easy way of doing that, but I suspect if I hunted on the internet, somebody will have found a way to scan an image using a proper scanner and then pump it into a preview using some other method, which I just haven't bothered to look for since I haven't needed it. Margaret?
I have played around with this and it's been good, but what I can't quite remember is whether I was able to adjust the size. I think I was, because it's another characteristic of your signature. Like if you normally write a fairly small signature and suddenly it's half a page.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be very obvious to...
Yeah, your signature needs to be scaled correctly for the page, not necessarily for the blank
You're
space.
doing that scaling right now. I think
Yeah.
that's all it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just drag the rectangle to the size that I want. So if I just put that in there again without scaling it, signature, just use that one, it's relatively small, but if I zoom the page to show the whole page, that's actually quite a reasonable size for a signature on the entire page. Yeah, so I was deliberately enlarging it just to show you could do that.
Yes, I remembered it was fairly simple, but I just couldn't remember.
Yeah.
David, did I see you make a box, or what did you call it, before you put the signature there?
Well, that's just an outline showing you where the signature is as an object. So if I go back there again and delete it, and I come in here and edit, so I did a click on that, it's got a box around it to show you where the signature is, and I can use that to pick up the whole thing and drag it. So all I'm doing is I'm dragging on the rectangle. If I click outside it, that box vanishes. It's not actually going to be visible.
Well, it's just that I've used this a lot of what you've shown before, but I've had trouble at times to get the signature to come down from the middle to where it should be.
Right, the trick is you've got to aim at the edge of the rectangle when you click on it. So I click somewhere in the middle to highlight it. Now I've got the, if I click on the corners it will resize. If I click on the edges you get a hand tool, and if I'm pointing at the edges I can then drag it in position on the page. So if I try and do that somewhere in the middle it also works, but with some of the objects if you aim in the middle is classified as transparent and you can't actually click there because you're clicking through a hole in it effectively. So you've got to aim at the edges to get it to actually move. So the key is to look at what the symbol, the mouse symbol is. If it's an arrow, you're in selection mode. If it's a double cornered arrow, you're about to resize. If it's a hand, you're about to move. So if you click and drag at that point. So as long as you aim right, you should just be able to drag it anywhere around the page, including off the edges if you want to partly truncate it. That's okay. What other things are there? I don't even know what that one does. Oh, a little coloured rectangle, which is, I think, a note. Can you resize that? What happens if you do? Yeah, it's actually an editable note. This is a comment, ignore my, which is actually a clickable object which has a comment attached to it, so you can add your own comments to it and it stays there as a little coloured blob, but I think those ones are not actually visible. I'm not sure, I haven't played with them much. So again, an item to experiment with and see what your experience is with those sorts of things. I'm just pointing out the feature set mainly. So that was all I wanted to cover on that one. Anybody have any further comments or questions on that particular? Yes, Rick?
Where do you store your signatures when you
They get stored automatically by preview in a secure database of some description on the computer. I remember going and hunting for it once and I couldn't find it. They're not stored in a way where arbitrary things can come in and grab it. You've got to actually go into preview, go into the markup tools, and they're available there or in other versions of the same markup tools. So they're not stored as image files somewhere on your computer. They're just stored buried inside a database somewhere. But you can go and delete them afterwards if you don't want to use them again. So the manage signatures feature lets you delete them. So that's got create there. Oh yeah, I can click X to permanently delete that signature if I don't want it anymore. So that will remove it from the system database of signatures. Okay.
Can I just watch you create an arrow again?
Okay, I want an arrow which is a shape. So I click on the shapes. I click arrow. Actually, what are the ones at the bottom there? Those ones are magnifier, and I'm not sure what that one is. I haven't experimented with those. This is a rather odd looking arrow. It appears to have no body. I ain't got no body. There's the arrow. Right, so I've made the body transparent, or the outline has to be non-transparent. So that's, you can make curved ones as well by picking up the green dot in the middle and reshaping it. So
and how did you get that arrow on the pointer?
it defaults to one particular end as the tip, and if I drag it right around, I can rotate the whole thing over if I need to, or whatever it might be. I don't know if you can easily make it straight again after you've dragged the middle up, but an easier option is simply to delete it and create another one. So it defaults to straight, and now I can just reverse it by pushing it around that side, or whichever way I want to make it point.
If you want to stay straight, don't fiddle with the middle.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, if you hold down the shift key, the usual rules apply. You can get it on 45-degree angles by holding the shift key down, which is the usual sort of trick that you do on the Mac for constraining movement in drawing programs. Okay.
You could tell them to turn the page over. You could bend it.
Yeah. So, if you wanted to, yeah. It doesn't necessarily make sense in the PDF because they may be viewing it in a scrolling vertical view, so it's a bit harder to tell. Anyway, so just to give you a general feel for that. So those let you add stuff to a PDF and fiddle with it as you see fit, or to an image in preview. Okay. The other thing I was going to demonstrate was if you have received an email and you want to reply, I'll use Margaret's email as an example here. If you want to reply to the email, but rather than replying by typing all your text at the top and then having to sort of cross-reference pieces of it, which can get a bit unwieldy for a larger message, you want to actually reply inline, point by point, within a multi-paragraph email. So what I often find people doing, as I said earlier, was that they might come in here and do something like start typing some text, which you then can't tell from what was there before, the quoted text, and they think the best thing to do here is change the colour. So they make their text red or something like that to make it stand out. So you end up with this sort of a bit hodgepodge mixture, and it makes it very hard to work out where things were. I've been in the habit ever since I started using email and Usenet and various other things to operate on a similar basis of doing paragraph response. So I tend to do is, if you want to insert normal text in the middle of a quoted chunk of text, what you do is position the insertion point at the end of the paragraph and push return. And what you get is a blank line with no marker bar on the left hand side. So that marker bar signifies this is quoted text. So anything I type here, this is my response to the above paragraph, whatever it might be. This is completely arbitrary, of course. So notice the colour is automatically different. The quoted text becomes a different colour as you view it just by an automatic feature of the mail software. The bar indicates this is text which the previous person wrote. The lack of a bar means this is new text that I've written. So that style, and if I want to reply to this paragraph, I come in here and saying that is a good point, thank you, or something like that. So I can just reply point by point within the whole thing rather than having to write a long response to something which has already got a lot of text in it, and it's hard to keep track of which bit you're talking about unless you quote bits of it in what you're writing. Doing it this way, I find, works much better for anything which is more than a very short response to something, because it gets just too hard to work out what you're talking about unless you repeat. Like if somebody's already started a conversation with the new text entire quoted body, and that's happened 2 or 3 times already, you end up with this massive indented quoted bit at the bottom. That gets too hard to actually add things to, so I don't bother in that case. I just keep following the pattern that the previous person's used. But if I'm able to sort of intercept at the right point, I'll reply this way instead. And I find it's easier because it means I don't need to say things like, regarding the particular point, it means I'm doing less typing, and it's easier to follow if you're actually following it point by point through the whole thing. Does that make sense? So the key point there was, if you want to insert something into the middle of the quoted text, you find the end of the paragraph that you want, you push the return key, and that inserts a normal line of text that you can then type in without it being treated as quoted text. Now, if you have been doing a fair amount of editing and you find that you've messed things up a bit, there are actually keyboard shortcuts for re-quoting bits. If I come down here, I can actually press Command single quote and turn that into quoted text, or I can use Command Shift single quote, Command Option single quote to unquote it. So that is actually saying turn this into things that I've written or things that I'm replying to. So you've accidentally edited something and you've messed up the quoting markers, you can use those key combinations, which I think are under the edit menu. Where are they? I don't actually know where they are because I've used the keyboard shortcuts so much that I don't even remember where they came from. Format. Indentation, there they are. No, that's indentation, that's different. Quote level, there it is. So under the format menu, quote level, increase or decrease. So if I want to, I can actually say, I want to make this 2 levels deep. So that changes colour again. That's now a double quoted thing, so that's saying it's a response to a previous response. And I can adjust the level of that down by 1 again as well. So Command Option single quote brings it back to a single level response, and now it's new text. So you need to understand the notation system there, which is the single bar means this is something the previous person wrote that I'm replying to. The double bar means this is something that I wrote 2 messages ago. The triple bar means this is something the other person wrote 3 messages ago. Quadruple bar means this is something I wrote 4 messages ago, and so forth. If it's sort of like a bounce back and forth conversation.
So by selecting, say, the top quote, can you then get rid of that quote mark?
Yeah, but doing that would be confusing because now it looks like I've written that, rather than them. Yep. Yep. So you can do if you want to. Yep. So And I think if you copy text which is already quoted and paste it, it remembers that it was quoted as well. So that's quite handy if you want to duplicate something and you want to refer to part of a paragraph or something later on as well. So it's handy to know all those sort of shortcuts. Any questions on that? Does that sort of make sense? The basic principle there of how to go about inserting a point-by-point response to an email and what the quotes mean and how to adjust them. Those are the points I wanted to get across there. Yep.
You select a quote or a bit of text, and then you go Command R to reply to it.
Yes, I didn't demonstrate that. I'll do that as well. If I close, I won't say that one. If I want to reply to this email, but I don't want to quote the whole thing, I only want to quote one paragraph, what I can do is I can come in here and triple click there, which gives me select one paragraph, or just select line, whatever selection I want. If I want to only select that but I drag across it, whatever it might be. So I select some text in the original message, I then use the reply command. It only quotes the bit that I selected, not the whole thing. So that means you don't get the mass signatures that have gone off the bottom of the email is confidential and should not be read by anybody else who isn't whatever it might be, and all that sort of thing. So yeah, it really depends on the context whether you want to do that or not, but it's quite handy if you just want to do a quick reply to one point and don't want to have to go and edit the whole thing down and get rid of all the bits you're not interested in.
So all you did is select and then reply?
Yeah, so I select some text and then use the normal reply command. So I'll select that paragraph and go reply, and then it says at the top, on such and such Margaret wrote, and just that paragraph, nothing else. So the rest of the email was there, but I've only quoted that one paragraph because that's the only part I'm responding to.
Also, you're paying if you don't mean to do it when you haven't realised.
Yes, if you think, oh bother, I didn't mean to do that, all you have to do is close the reply, if you notice it immediately, make sure you've got nothing selected and then use reply, and you'll get the whole thing quoted. So if you accidentally selected something and you've done, that's what's happened, that's why it happened. So just to deselect, all I did was I clicked in a bit of white space. So I've accidentally selected something, I want to then not have it selected, all I do is I click somewhere down here where there is no text, and that undoes the selection, and then I can reply to it and get the whole thing quoted, like that. Okay, good extra points, thank you folks. Any further questions on that? Okay. Now, as I have Margaret's email here, she had an item she wanted to discuss in this part of the meeting. Question related to the photo editing. You would like a way of displaying titles under photos that would be seen in the photos and album views, and hear members' ideas on some best ways of giving photos titles that help most when viewing and sorting, also with respect to the hidden metadata. Okay. So if you want to see, I'll run photos, assuming you're talking about the Photos application as your cataloguing tool for the moment.
Yes, like you open it and whichever you're doing, like whether it's just photos or whether it's an album, you will see a sea of photographs. And you've got your titles shown.
Host of our beach house's cat showing it, flaunting it all, happily asleep on the carpet, as an example. So if I want to add a title to this, so first of all, if I bring up the metadata, I can just add a title to it. So I'll call this Steel in Flagrante. Sort of right delicto or something like that. Arbitrary picture. So that's the title. So that title is just metadata. So that information doesn't show up on the photo itself, it's just some extra information I've added to the photo. If I go back a level from there, the title does show up underneath here as long as you've got view titles turned on. I think there's show, oh no, that's not that one, metadata. Yep, you can turn on or off whether or not titles are visible in this view. If I close that info window and go into it again, it does show the title in the title bar at the top of the window, but the photo itself has no visible title. So Margaret, are you asking about a way of making the title visible in the photo itself as part of the image?
Well, it was in particular the multiple photo view. So what I noticed is when you turn photos on, the titles were there, so your selection will last when you close photos.
Yeah, so it remembers the last view settings you had. So if I turn titles off, I just get the photos, no titles.
Oh, so that's pretty simple.
So view, metadata, titles, to turn them back on again. So that will then show whatever title it's got, or if it hasn't got one, it just shows the file name.
And like in some cases, sometimes it's just a number that's in the camera, but in my Samsung phone, for example, the number it gives it is actually the date backwards. It's, you know, from 2020, 01, etc.
See if I can find any.
Yeah,
like these ones.
The date.
That one was,
So some of these things
maybe not.
are actually worth keeping as well as the actual
Yeah, my
things that make it easy to organise.
yeah. Just at the moment, my current philosophy is I just dump them in there and don't worry about it. They're there somewhere, and I'll find them.
Well, me too, but I wondered if I should try and report.
Yeah, I mean, back when I was using iPhoto, I tended to use what they're called, events, to organise things, and I was careful to put things in the right events, but they lost that feature in Photos, and it has its own concept of how things should be organised, so that all got lost, which was irritating. So I haven't really, I've done a bit of mishmash of creating albums of things and that sort of stuff, but was there anything in particular you wanted to do, Graham?
Yeah, I thought we could do a little bit of photos, so if you want to load up photos, because I can do the talking, you can do the showing. I got asked the other day by somebody how to go about sharpening a photo. And I said to him, before you even think about sharpening a photo, there's a process you really need to go through. And so you've got a photograph here and you feel it needs to be sharpened. The first thing you can do, or the first thing you should do with any photograph, is you start looking at the brightness and contrast. So you should be able to go into your brightness and contrast.
Let me find something which is possible as a sunset photos. I don't want to fiddle with them.
Oh, those will be right.
That'll be right. So that's an arbitrary view of the beach, so that will do.
So go into your
Edit.
yeah. So you'll find just about every single photograph you take actually needs a little bit of tweaking to make a decent photo out of it. And the first thing you do is you do a bit of contrast. Just about every single photo is going to need some contrast. And in the process of giving it contrast, which you should find up there.
Yeah, okay. So if I didn't have all the options shown, then that might initially just show that view there under light. So it shows a general setting, but you can click on the options triangle to reveal the individual controls. So you can choose black point, contrast, brightness, and so forth. So
you just up the contrast just a bit.
Shadows is usually a good one.
At the moment you start bringing the contrast up, you're actually sharpening the photo. So that as a matter of course.
So,
if you go too far,
and that sort of flattens it all out again. Yeah, so you can see,
you can see. Don't need to do a lot, just a little bit. Don't sharpen the photo for starters. Now, if the photograph's out of focus, nothing you do is going to sharpen. You can't turn a person to a salesperson.
Right, I was thinking there was a submarine on the beach. It was a person sitting on a log on the beach.
That was such an interesting photo.
And then the next thing you want to start looking at is you want to start looking at the likes of the sky. And you've got clouds in there. Now if your photograph's too bright, if you brighten that photograph up, the first thing you start doing is you lose detail in the highlights and the skies and the clouds. So you might want to darken it down just a little bit, just to get the more detail in the clouds.
A little bit, yeah. So like if we steer back to the beginning again, the clouds become more dramatic looking if the brightness is brought down.
If it becomes too dark now, you've got your contrast sorted out, you want it, you've got then you basically do your gamma, and in the case of that I think exposure is probably if you go up to exposure.
Exposure, yep.
Now that should bring it up a bit, but you don't lose the detail in the clouds.
Well, it washes out very quickly though.
But you don't want to do too much, Ellie.
Yep.
Just a little bit. Everything should be just a little bit. Don't go.
No, I'm just working out where I want to go, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Okay, so now you've turned the photograph without even touching sharpening, which is what this person asked me how to do, to a point where you don't even need to sharpen.
Okay, and I think if I click that tick, it temporarily turns off that adjustment, so you can compare the original photo with what you've just chosen. So you can do a sort of an A/B comparison, so you can see what it looks like originally. There's a little tick box next to light. So I'm saying turn off the light adjustments. So in the corner of next to light, I can click that, turn back on again. So after I've set the levels the way that I like, I can see how does that look compared to what I started with. So it's created a much higher contrast. The lighting is actually looking a little bit artificial to me now, because that is actually what it looked like. It was that sort of colour scheme. So the colours have got
too much contrast in there.
yeah. So go back.
Once you see that, you can say, okay, I need to bring
Yeah.
the contrast back a bit.
Never
Yeah.
used it.
So that's quite a handy little trick just for, and the brightness is probably a bit too far down. So I'll bring it back up a little bit. And now if I go compared to the original, so that's,
Why was
It
the
gives it a
sky
bit more depth, a bit
shade?
more life.
hmm?
Gives it more depth.
I find the shadows one of the most useful slides.
What does that do?
Much better, much same as the contrast.
Yeah. There
It's
isn't,
just darkening it up a bit.
there isn't actually much in the way of shadows per se in this photo, so it's a bit hard to tell.
That's
possibly.
affecting the bottom, the dark, the black
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
photos. Whereas the highlights will do the white.
I want the
one,
brightness to
it's
be up a
supposed
little bit
to
from there.
face
I
the
think.
camera.
Yeah.
How did you switch back and forth between the original?
This little tick box next to light, because I've made some light adjustments, that got ticked automatically. If I untick it, it disables all the adjustments I've made to the light, and it reverts back to what it was before I started fiddling.
Bring them straight
I can then bring them straight back to what they're currently set to. So that's a very handy way of just seeing how does this look compared to what I started with. You'll notice also down here that you may have just seen at the bottom of the screen this levels thing histogram was changing as I did that, so you can see you can just see a part of the histogram down the bottom, so it's showing you a slight shift in the downward direction and also raising the levels effectively by doing those adjustments.
Generally speaking, with cameras from iPhones and things, you don't really need to do much in the way of colour correction. Because the colours are pretty good, but if you want to play around with colour correction, one of the first things you might want to look at is white balance.
So one down here, that's actually a separate feature. The colour itself, you can change saturation, contrast and cast, but under white balance, it's currently on auto, so it's got neutral grey, and you can adjust the white balance by increasing the warmth or decreasing it and making it basically almost black and white.
Well, it won't make it black and white, it makes it cold.
Yeah, it makes it very cold, so it's very blue and yellow. Yeah, that's what it's doing, isn't it? So it's the colour temperature really. Yeah,
So you basically look for something which is dead white.
yeah.
And is that the picker on it or not?
Sorry?
Has it got a picker on there? Yeah, it has. So neutral grey is a colour picker.
Where's that?
See what it says neutral grey?
Yeah.
To the left,
Oh, to the left of that.
there's a little colour picker. Click on that. Now if you click on something that is white, that you know is white, that'll set everything white compared to that colour on the left. You look at the cloud, basically find a white cloud.
Somewhere up there.
Well, that's a bit blue. I'll go to where it's white.
Over here somewhere. Oh, there's only tiny wee spots of white
Doesn't
colour.
matter, it's only one pixels.
Yeah.
That will now adjust your colour balance so that it'll find a point that is white and make it white. And quite often, if you take a photograph inside tonight, you've got incandescent lights up here. So everything inside this room at the moment is yellow. You take a photo with your phone tonight in the year, it's all going to be yellow. So you've got a yellow cast over it, mainly because of the lights you've got above you. Now if you've got fluorescent lights, they'll make everything blue. So you need to put a bit of warmth back into it, and these ones will take a bit of warmth out of it. Try to get a more neutral light because your eyes don't notice that it's yellow, but the camera certainly does. Because it's taking the colour temperature of the lights. And if you're out in the sun's basically white light anyway. So generally speaking, like in the sunny day there pretty much, you get pretty good light. But if it's horribly overcast, it'll be more bluey. So you can adjust your colour temperature with your white balance. Generally speaking, cameras automatically do it anyway, unless you've got a setting there that does automatic white balance. And effectively, you either put in yellows and blues in one or the other. This is exactly what that's doing here.
Okay. So I don't want to keep that particularly, so I'm going to turn them
You
off.
can't actually cut the flowers out of that photo and put them in another one.
Yeah, that's
Not with this set of tools. This is really...
Just doing some... These will come in photos, so you don't have to have any fancy equipment. It's already there. So I'm just going over the things in here that you can start to do. Now, if you want to start doing colour, another thing David
Actually, I'll just show you.
Comment
Just,
here.
oh, okay.
Is even though we've made changes to this, right, it hasn't changed
No.
the original.
Oh, yeah, I realise that.
So it's only, so you don't lose the original, you always keep the original. And it makes a copy of it.
It's a big advantage of this one.
Now, if you want to put that on your desktop, you just drag it onto your desktop and it'll give you a copy of what you've done. I think that's the copy version.
Well, it will do whatever the current version of the photo is normally. So yeah, if you're in the middle of editing, I don't know if you can do that, but if you save it and then you can drag and drop a photo onto the desktop, yeah.
It doesn't overwrite the original. You get a copy.
No, but you can always use revert to original. If I go done now, that photo is now saved in my database as edited, but I can now say image revert to original. So if I want to get rid of my editing, then I can just click on that, and that goes back to the as it came from the phone. And now I've lost those edits. That's gone back to the original version of the photo.
But if you want both, when will your
Well, if you want both,
version end up? Will it
what you want
next to the-
if you want to keep an unmodified copy of the original and have an edited copy as another photo in your library, what you do is duplicate the photo and then edit the duplicate. So then they're two separate photos as far as the software is concerned.
But if you duplicate a duplicated photo, it'll be go back into the photos with a completely different date on it, won't it?
No, it keeps all the metadata from the original one, so it says it's the same date and time. So if I go file or properties,
Next to it in the collection.
image, where's it hiding? Duplicate, there down the bottom. So if I go duplicate, and I now go revert to original, I now have the two separate photos, which are the edited copy and the original one.
And they're next to each other now, are they?
Yeah. So they are, it's called version 2, so it's lost the, so there's the original version and there's version 2. They're actually two separate photos. Yeah. So that's a technique I often use if I want to do something like take a photo and crop a small piece of it out. I don't want to lose the original photo. I duplicate the photo first, I then crop the duplicate so I can then get the piece that I want as a sort of a highlighted portion of that photo or the emphasis. But I don't want to lose the original in case there was something else I wanted in the frame as well.
Like we go back to the photo and the editing again, let's see if it's got unsharp masking there. What's got my sharpening?
Under sharpen, intensity, edges and fall off.
Okay, so you've got to be very careful when you start playing with sharpening. Because if David just push it up higher in intensity and see what happens. It's not good at it.
Can't see any difference.
Not on a particular photo.
You know if you're right up there.
There's no obvious effect.
They tend to get very grainy when you start pushing too hard.
Can't see anything really changing or fall off. No, it doesn't seem to do anything.
Okay, it might be tones it down quite a bit. If you go into Photoshop or any other programs, it gets very too big. That's why I think it's
I'm just zoomed in a bit now so I can see part of it. Yeah, okay. I can just see now, if I zoom in a bit more, it'll be more obvious. On the edges of the bits of water and the sand, if I go dragging, you can see there, it's drawing black lines around the edge of the water. If I turn the intensity way up, but they disappear and turn into sort of faded, muted looking things towards the edge.
It tends to
Yeah,
darken the edges.
yeah. So I was trying to find something with edges on it so I could show it, yeah. And if I turn on intensity so you can see it, and then I turn on edges, they'll get, whoa, that's completely changing the character of the sand. So all the sand, if I turn on the edges very high, that becomes very, very pixelated looking, or very flat looking. So that's more obvious.
You've got to be very careful.
And fall off, hard to tell what that's doing, but
Yes, it changes the texture.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But if I zoom back out again, it's not so obvious at this scale, but it is when you can zoom in. So it's possibly helpful to zoom in so you can see what effect you're having on the detail in the photo.
One other thing here, we start looking at is saturation. Where's it say saturation there?
That would be under colour, wouldn't it? Yeah.
And that just gives you a bit more oomphy colour.
Oh yes. Well, it's a lot more saturated there. That's sort of.
And if you go the opposite way,
Yeah,
it goes black.
It goes completely black and white. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
So you can give a bit more warmth to your colour once you've done your contrast and all the other things, just to bring it up a little bit. But
Well,
once again, you don't want to go too far.
That's starting to make the sea more visible anyway, because the sea is different colour from the sand, but you can't really tell that because you can now see a green sea in the background rather than it's sort of, yeah, it's there, but it sort of looks like part of the sand and kind of just like different colour. Interesting. So it has got a slight green tint, but it just stands out more if you saturate it.
And you can also start playing around with a photo like that and turn it into a night scene and all sorts of fancy things whatever you really want to.
Another one I find useful is the definition.
Which is, there it is, definition.
There.
What does that do?
You can sharpen it to elements. Yeah,
It brings things out
that's sharpening it.
and gets the detail.
Yeah, it's a sort of like, it's that sort of,
Without going too far, that's what,
yeah, I'm just sort of seeing what effect it's doing.
yeah.
Could you allow it to look at the graininess?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a feel for what it does, first of all. If I look at the edge of the grass there, it's making that sort of more sort of
Stands out.
It's kind of like removing, it's kind of like the sharpness effect.
Imagine a picture of a model locomotive. And
That's,
Yes.
that's why they use
Yes.
Well, in Photoshop they have a thing called unsharp mask, which sounds a bit strange because it doesn't unsharp, it actually sharpens,
Yes.
but you can adjust it, all sorts of parameters,
Yeah.
which Photo doesn't give you quite as many controls on.
Yeah, well that log sort of, it's a bit hard to tell what it's doing.
Yeah, it does change the texture but in a different way.
Yeah, it's having a different effect. I'm just not entirely clear on how that differs from sharpness, but I can see it. I can see what it's doing. It's sort of. It's almost like it's turning the photo. If you do it a lot, it feels more like you're turning the photo into a painting. To me, you're losing detail. I think, isn't it?
Well,
Sometimes it brings out the detail if you've got highlights in different places. It'll bring that out.
It's sort of averaging in some way.
The main
Okay.
thing is to be circumspect in what you do, don't go too far, because you end up making photos worse.
Was there a river there, Dave?
That's the estuary. The river is sort of coming in from around this way. That's actually the river there, going out to the sea there, and this is part of its estuary. It's sort of mid-tide level. Yeah, it's the Waikawa stream actually, not river. Yeah, I don't know if I took any photos of the beach at different times of day, but if I save that one, that's just the edited copy, so I'm not worried about it.
See a drone view of that.
Well, that was, yeah. I haven't got any photos of that part of the beach on this trip. Was that was different? Well, that's part of the same beach at low tide, I think. Yeah, further around.
Nice sky.
A lot of tire tracks.
Yes, that's a bugbear, everybody. There's Kapiti Island off in the distance, so it's sort of roughly north of Kapiti Island is Waikawa Beach. Yes, lots of tyre tracks. And I did a panorama shot at sunset, which I thought was quite cool. My iPhone can take photos with the sun in the frame and do a pretty good job of it. I'm impressed. My friend was starting to look for shells at the time as she was just walking away from our group, but that's the same river mouth going out to the sea. You can see it's curving around to the right, but you can't quite see the estuary. That curly bit is over in the background there.
Tide a bit further in.
Yeah, and there's Suzanne and Matt just going for a walk down the beach.
Does panorama sort of bend things around?
Well, it does as a 180-degree view. So if you look at the photo at normal sort of size, it looks quite distorted because your point of view is rotating. So it tends to bend things in a curve towards the middle. But it works a lot better if you actually blow it up and pan across the image, because then you get something which looks more natural. Yes, and the nice sunset photos I managed to get. That one didn't quite work. The sun, it was overexposed, so the sun blew out, unfortunately. But if I did it again, was carefully adjusting the exposure, and you can see the sunset colours quite nicely. And that one, that was quite amazing because you just had a tiny tip of sun directly above the South Island. I was impressed with that. Just after it had gone down. That's without any fiddling. It's just the phone's default automatic thing. I am a superhero. You can put it in the water now. No, don't. You can put it down now. There we go. Yes, that was a live photo. I just kept recording. Done. Yeah, he actually then did toss it into the river just to annoy us. We decided against it. It was a bad idea, but it would wash away. Yeah. Okay. Any other points? That was all that one was going to cover. Any last requests?
Very good, thank you.
Otherwise, planning ahead for next month will be the AGM. So next month we're going to do the AGM at the start of the meeting as per normal pattern. So we'll have the official business, then we'll break for supper, and then we'll do whatever topic we come up with. Any requests for particular topics that people would like to cover, because I think we didn't have one planned yet. Our committee meeting was going on long enough that we'd run out of energy by that stage to work out what we wanted to talk about as a meeting topic.
So before we get off that, is there any way of taking a live photo that you get a bit of movement before it stops on the final photo? Is there any way of capturing the screen prior to where it finally finishes off?
I think you can edit the live photo and choose the keyframe on the phone. I haven't actually fiddled with that much.
No, I just don't figure out.
If I go into edit,
Yeah, like selecting the best photo from amongst the sequence.
so if I want, so right now it's showing me the start of the photo rather than a midpoint. I'd like that one to be the keyframe, for example. What can I do there? Anything? I don't know if you can do it on the Mac in Photos.
Is that a movie or a...
No, it's actually a live photo. I was taking a photo. I held the finger on the button long enough to capture a short video in effect.
If you get up to that icon, you ask us to use the round circle.
Well, that's the extensions things. That didn't have anything useful. So I don't see anything in there. You can mark it as a favourite. That's just got nothing available at the moment. I can't edit a live. I can't feed it. I can't mark up a live photo. It has to be a still photo. So most of the features are not available. This is treating it like a video rather than a photo. So if I look at it on the phone, find the same photo, it's actually picked a different frame on the phone. On the phone, if I want to say about there, pause, what can I do with that? Can I then say, no, edit, I can pick a point in the photo, but then what do I do with it? It's treating it like a video rather than a photo. So I'm not sure. I haven't used live photos very much except by accident, except once or twice, and I was expecting some animation, which coincidentally both occasions occurred with Matt doing something next to a river. Different river.
You can turn it on or off, can't you?
Yeah, you can disable the feature, but sometimes it's been useful. So
You had 24 megabyte in the movie, but if you had a whole lot of separate photos, they'd be 3 megabytes each.
yeah. So that's actually saying it's a movie, not a photo. So it's treating. I think once it's got once it's been saved as a live photo, it's actually a movie, not a photo. So what's that got? Options.
Found it, David.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go into the live photo, edit it, and see the one that's got the live photo circle beside cancel. If you do that and now move your cursor along, you can actually make that as the key photo.
Sorry.
No.
There is a camera, and then there's various other adjustments.
Okay. So basically, I'll hit cancel on mine. So you edit, hit that one.
Don't have that one. That's video. So this is not a live photo. This must have been recorded as a video.
Live photo's a bit different.
Yeah.
Okay.
That explains it. Okay, this one wasn't a live photo. It's treated it as a video, probably because I was holding it down long enough that it switched to video mode automatically. That one's 6 seconds, and that's probably possibly a live photo. No, all the ones that I think are live photos are videos.
Is there an instruction in Google?
Yeah, you can't. You can only do a selection.
Oh, that's been downloaded. Oh, that one's actually on from other cameras, so that's not very useful. I was trying to find one. No, so I'd have to do a bit more of a play to answer that one. Sorry, I have to find one which is actually a live photo first of all, because all the things that I'm thinking are live photos are actually videos. So the phone hasn't recognised them as live photos, so they've come through that way.
Yeah, there's two options on your phone. You can either do it as a live video, so you select a little round circle which does it as a live photo, or you can do it as a video. So video is actually a video mode. A live photo is basically if you're in a photo, you actually it gives you like a 2-second video inside of the middle one. So you can make a live photo as a key thing, but a video, you can't.
I'm not worried about videos,
Can you
it's
select
Live
duplicate?
videos. So how I did it,
Can you select duplicate and you might get
so
a
if I
choice
go
to
into
duplicate that
the live
frame.
photo, so that one there, you know,
I can duplicate the whole video.
move that across, make that as
Duplicate
easy
one
as
video, so it doesn't give you
photo.
the option to
We can make that
duplicate.
frame.
I should be able to save a frame from the
So
video.
I'll just,
I'm just wondering how you do that.
you know,
If you
Yeah,
get
that's
the
what I'm
video,
wondering.
that one, which is a live video. Okay, now you can move that across, just make a key photo of all live video. So basically it's frame by frame.
you just use
Yeah,
that.
basically,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's an answer on
Not
the
mistake.
support in Google.
there's actually one of those. There's actually one of them.
Yeah, I'd have to play around with that. I haven't done enough with it to really know about that level of detail, sorry. But there will be a way, certainly in something like, I could load it into a QuickTime Player and save a single frame as an image if I can't do it in photos. So that would then let me treat it as an image and import it again or something like that. Oh, this was fun.
I did send in a topic suggestion that's entirely different from this.
No, it's alright. Pete wants to do it in live. David?
Yeah.
Pete just wants to do it in live photos, not videos. So I've now shown him how to do it.
So where is it? It's not HDR.
There it goes. I want that bit to be in slow motion. About there to there. So if I go back to the beginning again, go play.
Okay, 3, 2.
Whee! Catapult. It was basically a big rubber band with a little a water-filled balloon that we were able to shoot over the beach house, and it hit the neighbour's fence across the road. It went up that way that time, so yeah.
That's a pretty strong catapult.
It was. We actually did it so hard the first time we burst the balloon before it left the catapult. So water went spraying everywhere. We had to reduce the pressure somewhat to actually get the right effect. So it was quite a good exercise in trying to work out the effect.
Yeah, no, Pete just wants to do live video, so he wants to make first or last or middle photo as your capture photo.
Yeah, I just had to find something which is a live photo. My phone is not taking live photos.
Because he
Okay.
had a photo of a leopard he wanted, it was moving.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. That was a feature I didn't know existed. I was able to adjust the slow-mo zone of a video recorded in slow motion, which my phone does as 240 frames per second, so it slows down to 30 frames per second, so you get 8 times slow
Because the other features too, which not a lot of people know too, with live photos as well, you can actually, if you actually scroll up on the live photo, you can actually do it to actually go backwards and then forwards there's movement things you can do with live videos as well.
There we go. There is a category of live photos. I don't know why some of these were live photos, but
We downloaded from my phone.
yeah, that's saying it's a live. Yeah, some reason some of mine was being taken as live photos. So if I go to edit on that,
Okay, so because the other features you can do with live photos, David, which you'll most know, is basically live loop, bounce, and long
there we go.
exposure.
Yep. Now I've got what I'm looking for. So yes.
And you've got all the editing here with the live
Yeah.
photos that you can got.
Yeah, well, not with the video. So the problem before was that when I thought I was taking a live photo, I was actually taking a video. So I'm not entirely clear on how I did that with the phone. I may have been in the wrong mode or something like that.
So, where's the setting for live photo?
So basically, when you're in a photo, you're in video, photo, okay, and see that one there that's got the line through it in the middle?
Yeah.
That is a live video.
Thank you.
Live
Ah.
photo.
That
Okay.
explains it. I have the live photo mode turned off. That's what it was. It's a
Got a
toggle.
line through it.
It's a toggle in the top right hand corner. That's what it was.
See the one in the middle? You've actually got your top, the yellow one at the top, in the middle. That's the live photo. So if you actually click that now, puts a line through it, you want to get live photos.
That explains it. Good. Worked it out now.
I turned it on before and I don't know how to turn it on.
So the thing about a live photo is that it's so short that they reckon that you can get an average edit for the whole thing. Is that why they've got editing?
Oh, because you've actually got...
Well, yes, you can. It's intended to be like it's usually less than a second, and you can adjust the lighting conditions and everything for the whole thing, so it'll affect the entire one. So if I just use this one and deliberately make it look silly by adjusting the say the brightness, yeah, that'll do. So it's obviously wrong. You can see it's done it to all the photos, all the frames of the photo, not just one of them.
Well, ultimately, you can only select one photo, can't you?
Yes, but when you play it, you can still see all of them. So if I go, don't want to do that. I'll just revert that back to the middle again.
I find
And
it
go
hard to
down.
believe that Mac won't let you do anything with a video.
Oh,
So
yeah,
you
so
must go to
basically,
editors, but you should be able to select the frame
Edit.
that you want, and then
Undo
you
edit.
that.
So I'll just revert back. But if I can actually click on the live thing there and play it. So it retains the effect that it's a live photo in your photo library,
But which one you select?
and you can pick which one's the key photo, which it shows. And if you click on it, I think it plays it or something.
You know, that all makes sense.
I'm just dragging it. If I can.
It's only if you actually touch the...
I think if you point to
touch,
it
you go
or
to
something.
one of these, it will come on.
What
Okay,
if
so
you
go
put
back
it
to
on
leave it on the
desktop
top.
Yeah.
and simply take a JPEG of it?
Yeah, well, you can see you can export it as JPEG or whatever. That's just a pick a frame kind of thing.
But if you export it as JPEG, will it do it?
Yeah.
Will it just export that
So
frame?
that's...
If I export a JPEG, it'll be the key frame that comes out because that's the one I've chosen as the key frame for the photo.
Do a live photo.
Okay, well maybe
So
that's
that's
how you
actually
do
bouncing.
it, but
So it's actually forward back,
it's not
forward
going to go
back.
back to the same
Okay,
place
I'll
in
come up.
photos.
No, but the point is I can come into the editor
Long
and I can pick a frame. So if I want that one to be the key frame,
Yeah, that's because it's a live photo. I'm
Yeah.
back to videos.
well, videos you can't export a JPEG from a video. I don't think.
Rather than your actual taking of the
Yeah.
photo.
If I want to go back to videos,
What you can do is basically take a screenshot of it.
Bouncing.
You're a more recent
You
model
could
than
put that on
mine.
full screen
Yeah,
view.
yeah, I've got...
yeah, but that's you're going to get extra stuff you don't want in the screenshot. So
If you go full screen, you can screenshot.
Yeah, no worries.
if I go
It's just that it won't file next
if I go
to
full
the
screen, I'll get all this stuff in the video. I don't want that.
Even if you JPEG, just take it out. Copy it up.
That will be in the middle of the screenshot. You don't want the video controls in the middle of the video.
If you hit the side,
to watch it.
you should be able to get rid of that little colour.
Not completely.
Can you put it below the picture?
No. It will always be in the image unless you're playing it, in which case you can start playing it and then not move the mouse.
No.
I'll just mute the sound. That's just settings for, set poster frame. Export framed pictures. There we go. So there we go, we found it. Find the frame you want. If I want that frame there, I can then go export frame to pictures.
Okay, so what format will
it will now be a JPEG. So if I go back to photos, find the video, where has it gone?
And so what will the metadata say?
He's gone, he's gone.
This will go to your downloads folder, your desktop, hasn't it?
No, it said export to photo, there it is there. So what did it do with it?
Love it.
Check the desktop folder.
On the cyberspace.
It said export photo frame to photos.
Go to pictures.
To
It's
photo.
It'll be an export, won't it?
It's in pictures, David. It's export.
Or imports.
It's in pictures. Yeah.
God, what's this doing in this view? Give me a sensible view.
It's in the pictures folder.
Yeah, there it is. It's created a TIFF of it.
Oh,
Yeah, there it is. So it's saved as a picture, single file TIFF image in pictures. So I could then import that into my photo library. So I
But it
didn't.
won't turn up side by side because you've lost your metadata. Is that true? Have you got the original
If I turn on the, where's the sidebar thingy? It's got more
That
detailed
was still
information.
11 megabytes. That's amazing.
It's a TIFF rather than, maybe compressed TIFF rather than a
Oh, yes, no.
view. Show preview is what I want. So created today, modified today, so it doesn't retain any of the original metadata about when the photo was taken. So it's treated it, it's lost the metadata from the video in the process. Oh, content created 27th of January. No, that's today. Yeah. So it's lost it. It was about a week ago. Or 5 days ago or something. Yeah. Okay, no.
Amazing.
Very good.
So that method again was
You find the video in photos and while you're viewing it you can just use this, move to the bit that you want and then you click on the gear symbol and you can set poster frame, which is what it will show in the video in your photo library. You can export it as a file into your pictures folder, as it turns out, is what that means. I don't know what the show scanning buttons does. Or trim. Presumably trim is for, oh yeah, you can crop it at the beginning and end, right, yeah, take off part of the,
Can you twist it and straighten it?
not in here, you'd have to go to a more powerful program, but that will let you remove part of the beginning or the end of the video or something like that, or crop bits.
Time moving layers, if you like.
Yeah,
Time moving layers.
yeah. You could just basically export it into load it into a video editing program. This gives you basic editing tools, a bit like QuickTime Player. Yeah. Okay. Okay, full screen mode.